when Jasper Sutton's childhood friend, Kimberly Jensen, once again took the passenger seat, I didn't argue or cause a scene. I simply turned around and opened the back door, only to pause in surprise. I didn't expect that Jonathan Clayton, someone as busy as he was, would join this short road trip. After quickly regaining my composure, I nodded at him with reserved politeness. Jonathan, wearing glasses and showing traces of fatigue on his face, lifted his eyelids to glance at me. He gave a slight nod in return before closing his eyes again. While fastening her seatbelt, Kimberly glanced back at me smugly, raising an eyebrow. "Kathy, I get carsick, so I'm sitting in the front, okay?" "Kimmy gets carsick. Be generous about it. Don't make a fuss over something so trivial all the time." I let out a soft laugh. "All right." Jasper seemed a little surprised but didn't say anything more because Kimberly had already shoved a half-eaten piece of bread into his mouth. "This tastes bad. Help me finish it, okay, Jazzy?" Without even frowning, Jasper naturally ate the rest of the bread. Kimberly glanced at me through the rearview mirror, sticking out her tongue playfully. I ignored her and grabbed a bottle of soda, trying to open it. The cap was tight, and I still couldn't get it off after 2 attempts. Up front, Kimberly was pouting as she handed her bottle to Jasper. "Jazzy, I really can't open it. You know I have no strength in my hands." Jasper just looked at her dotingly before effortlessly opening the bottle for her. Then, the two of them took turns sipping from it without the slightest intention of avoiding intimacy. I felt a wave of nausea. Just as I was about to set my bottle down, a man's hand suddenly reached over and took it from me. Under the sleeve of a black casual suit, the cuff of a silver-gray shirt could be seen, neatly fitting around a slender wrist. The hand was beautiful, long, defined fingers with nails trimmed short and clean. His fingers looked like polished silver in the shifting light reflecting through the car window. While I was still stunned, Jonathan had already twisted the cap open and handed the bottle back to me. The car's music started playing at just the right moment. I quickly took the bottle and murmured a soft "thank you." Jonathan gave a slight nod and closed his eyes again. He must have just come off a night shift at the hospital. Faint red veins were visible in his tired eyes. I sipped the soda slowly. The car had merged smoothly onto the main road. Kimberly's birthday was coming up, so Jasper organized this short road trip to celebrate it. About 7 to 8 of us were in 3 cars, heading to a hot spring resort 100 miles away. Not long after we started driving, Kimberly practically glued herself to Jasper's side. The music was loud, making it hard to hear what they were saying, but they were clearly enjoying themselves. Lately, Jasper and I have had several unpleasant arguments because of his inappropriate closeness with Kimberly. He promised to be more mindful next time, but whenever he saw Kimberly again, that promise vanished into thin air. Suddenly, everything felt meaningless to me. I lowered my head, chuckled to myself, then turned to look out the window. The mountain roads twisted and turned, with the occasional loose rocks scattered along the path. As the car jolted, I couldn't help but lean to the side. My bare knee under my skirt brushed against Jonathan's thigh, pressed tightly against it. I wanted to move away instinctively, but then I noticed a faint reddish mark on Kimberly's neck. Even a fool could recognize it. A kiss mark. There was no need to guess who left it. In that instant, a surge of defiance rose within me, and I simply froze, leaving my knee where it was. Just then, Jonathan opened his eyes and looked at me. I pretended to be perfectly calm, staring straight ahead, refusing to meet his gaze. Yet, my knee, pressed against the outside of his thigh, subtly shifted closer, pressing in even more. Only a thin layer of fabric separated us. I could clearly feel the firmness and heat of his muscles beneath. Waves of warmth surged through me, setting my nerves alight as if electrified. My mouth felt dry, and I couldn't help but swallow hard before reaching for the water bottle again. The cold water rushed down my throat, suppressing the restlessness and anxiety bubbling inside me, jolting me back to clarity. Jonathan still hadn't moved his leg. He just let me stay pressed against him like that. For a moment, my heart felt as if it had stopped entirely. Then it picked up speed, racing uncontrollably. But just then, the car suddenly swerved sharply. Kimberly let out a startled cry from the front seat. That scared me, Jazzy. She patted her chest dramatically, then softened her voice to praise him. But your reaction was so quick, Jazzy. If you hadn't turned the wheel in time, that rock would have hit our car. Jasper chuckled. Impressed? My driving skills are top-notch. Kimberly suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. You're amazing, Jazzy. Here's a kiss. Cut it out, Jasper scolded, pretending to be annoyed. At least he hadn't forgotten his girlfriend was sitting in the back. He shot her a mock glare. Act your age, will you? Kathy is right here. Kimberly widened her eyes, putting on an innocent, pure expression. Kathy, Jazzy, and I grew up together. I see him as my elder brother. You don't mind, do you? I pulled a blanket over myself, forcing a cold smile. Oh, do you kiss your brother like that at home too? Kimberly immediately put on a pitiful look. Jazzy, see? I told you Kathy doesn't like me. Maybe I shouldn't go. I don't want to upset her. Jasper frowned right away. Enough, Catherine. You're 2 years older than Kimmy. Can't you be a little more mature? She's just a kid at heart, spoiled and playful. Why do you have to be so harsh? In that instant, I didn't even have the strength to argue anymore. Be more generous, huh? Sure. But in the future, I hope you'll be just as generous too. Beneath the cover of the blanket, my leg pressed even tighter against Jonathan's. As the car jolted slightly again, my knee and calf brushed against him once more. Suddenly, his long, warm hand slid over and grabbed my thigh. His palm was hot against my cool skin, and that warmth seeped into me, wave after wave. In that fleeting moment, my senses felt magnified 1,000 times over. I could even feel the faint calluses on his fingers, calluses from years of holding surgical scalpels. I could feel the subtle friction as the pads of his fingers grazed my skin. So, I couldn't help but glance back at him, just a quick look. But it was enough to catch him sitting upright, his shirt collar neatly buttoned. Yet, his Adam's apple bobbed sharply, betraying his tension. From the side, those razor-sharp contours of his face were strikingly handsome. It was the kind that made your heart skip a beat without warning. Jonathan was an outlier in Jasper's social circle. If it weren't for some roundabout family connection between them, a man like him, cold, indifferent, and obsessed with cleanliness, would never mingle with this crowd. After getting together with Jasper, I naturally got to know him too. But every time we met, it was nothing more than a polite nod and greeting. He liked silence, wasn't much of a talker, and his personal life was as blank as a sheet of paper. At gatherings, while others played cards or sports, Jonathan often left early. If he stayed, he'd sit alone on a corner couch, eyes closed, resting quietly, never joining the lively chaos around him. Jasper used to joke about it. My cousin is practically a monk, pure and untouched. He's 27 and has probably never even been with a woman. But he's gotten better this past year. Invite him to 10 gatherings, and he shows up to 3 or 4. If it was a few years ago, you can forget about it. You'd never even catch a glimpse of him. I'd actually heard of Jonathan back in college, and had even seen him from afar a few times. To me, he always seemed like the kind of man girls fantasize about for their first crushes. Distant, unattainable, a moon hanging high in the sky. We never had much contact, except for a couple of times when I went to the hospital due to discomfort in my bosom. By coincidence, I ended up with an appointment under his name. I'd initially felt a bit embarrassed, but Jonathan was completely professional. That quickly put me at ease. I even secretly scolded myself afterward. After all, Jonathan was a surgeon. What hadn't he seen before? Even though I was young, beautiful, and in good shape, I was nothing more than just another body to him. But still, when his hands touched me during the examination, I couldn't help but squeeze my eyes shut, my face flushing bright red. Later, as I was leaving, I wondered if I'd imagined it or if the room's heating had been too high. Jonathan's ears also seemed a little red. Jazzy, can we stop at the next service area? I need to use the restroom. Kimberly's voice suddenly pulled me back from my thoughts. I bit my lip gently, trying to shift my leg. but Jonathan's fingers only tightened their grip. I lowered my lashes, not daring to move again. Soon, the car pulled over. Kimberly immediately whined, asking Jasper to accompany her to the restroom. Jasper glanced back at me, looking slightly conflicted. But Jonathan spoke up suddenly, his voice low and steady. "She's asleep." Jasper seemed to relax at once. "John, I'll just go with Kimmy to the restroom. We'll be back soon." Jonathan responded with a simple hum. The car door opened, then closed. Soon, their voices faded away, leaving behind complete silence. "Catherine." Jonathan suddenly pulled the blanket off my legs. "You're already sweating. Aren't you hot?" I lowered my head even more, not daring to meet his gaze. I grabbed the water bottle, trying to mask my awkwardness by taking a sip. But he snatched it from me. "Don't drink so much cold water. Have you already forgotten the medical advice I gave you?" I didn't know where the courage came from, but I suddenly looked up and met his eyes. Dr. Clayton's medical skills aren't all that impressive. "Oh." His brows furrowed slightly. "And why is that?" "I followed your advice, took the medication, avoided the foods you told me to, but it still hurts." His frown deepened. "Does it still hurt?" "It hurts right now, actually." I pressed my lips together, tilting my chin defiantly. "Should I come in for another checkup, Dr. Clayton?" Not far outside the window, Kimberly was clinging to Jasper's arm. The two of them were so close that there wasn't even room for air between them. Jasper kept pinching her cheek, ruffling her hair affectionately. They looked like the perfect, inseparable couple. I felt a simmering frustration, anger trapped in my chest, desperately searching for an outlet. Before I knew it, I grabbed Jonathan's hand. Or maybe Dr. Clayton can fulfill his duty as a doctor right now and examine me? When his hand was about to touch my chest, he quickly pulled away and immediately gripped the back of my neck firmly. With just a little force, he pulled me right up against him. "Catherine." He lowered his gaze to look at me, and I had to tilt my face upward just to meet his eyes. "Don't try to seduce me here." "Seduce you?" I met his gaze head-on, refusing to back down. "Dr. Clayton, are you saying you have no medical ethics? You'd ignore a patient in discomfort and just sit there watching?" Before I could finish, he suddenly took off his glasses and kissed me. That taste was so uniquely his, a faint bitterness mixed with a sterile scent of disinfectant, like it seeped from every inch of his skin, completely enveloping me. My eyes widened. Instinctively, I tried to push him away, but his hands only held me tighter. A small gasp escaped me, but as soon as my lips parted, he took full advantage, deepening the kiss even more. The air in my lungs was slowly drained away, making my head spin. First, my legs gave out, then my entire body went weak as if my bones had been taken apart, leaving me unable to support myself. His fingers gripped my chin, kissing me deeper and deeper. Even my tongue felt numb. At some point, my hands clutched at his shirt, wrinkling the fabric in my desperate grip. Our ragged breaths tangled together, and tears prickled at the corners of my eyes from the overwhelming intensity. Suddenly, Jonathan stopped. I tilted my head back, dazed, my eyes still hazy as I stared at him, as if silently asking for more. Jonathan smirked, his fingers brushing away the moisture from the corner of my lips. "No need to rush, Catherine." I stared at him, dazed, my mind still spinning. He leaned down again, planting a soft, lingering kiss on my slightly swollen lips. His forehead rested against mine, his voice low and husky against my ear. 30 more miles. When we get there, I'll give you what you want." A sudden buzzing rang in innie ears. My body, already softer and heated from the kiss, grew even hotter, almost unbearable. I couldn't believe those words had come out of Jonathan's mouth. My ears must have been bright red, and the back of my neck felt like it was burning. I raised my hand, trying to push him away, but Jonathan tilted his head and kissed me lightly on the earlobe. "They're back," he whispered. Startled, I looked out the car window. Jasper and Kimberly were walking back, chatting and laughing. I quickly pushed him away, sat back in my seat, and pulled the blanket over me to pretend I was still asleep. But the moment I closed my eyes, The strange sensation on my lips reminded me of what had just happened. I took out a small makeup mirror to check. My lips were slightly swollen and glistening, and my lipstick was smudged. No matter how I looked at it, it seemed suspicious. I couldn't help but glare at Jonathan. "This is all your fault. My lips are all swollen." He leaned back against the car seat, calmly cleaning his glasses. Then, he glanced at me and pointed slightly with his chin toward something. Then who should I blame for this? I instinctively followed his gaze, and my eyes widened in shock. How can you? How could he have an erection? Didn't Jasper say he was indifferent to women and completely uninterested? "Catherine, I'm still a normal man," Jonathan replied, putting his glasses back on and gently pushing the frame up his nose. Frame up his nose. In just an instant, the raw, intense energy from our heated kiss vanished without a trace, sealed away like it never existed. He was back to being the cold, restrained Dr. Clayton. But somehow, that stark contrast made my heart flutter with secret delight. After all, who didn't want to pluck the unattainable flower from its pedestal? Who didn't want to see a man, usually so distant and composed, lose control, burn with desire, and go absolutely mad over them? Doubting men, understanding men, becoming men, that saying seemed to be the ultimate truth. As Jasper and Kimberly approached the car, Jonathan suddenly pulled out a small bag of spicy snacks from who knows where and handed it to me. "Open this. Don't eat it. Just make it look like you did." "Why can't I eat it? I love these," I muttered. "Junk food. No nutritional value," he added dryly. Rolling my eyes, I muttered under my breath, but still tore open the packaging, ready to eat, only for him to snatch it from me and toss it straight into the car's trash bag. The car door opened, and Kimberly climbed in, immediately glancing back at me. "Kathy, what's wrong with your lips?" she asked. Keeping a straight face, I pointed at the trash bag. "Ate too much of the spicy snacks. Got a little swollen from the spice." Kimberly giggled, covering her mouth, then turned to Jasper. "Jazzy, if we didn't know better, we'd think Kathy's lips got that swollen from kissing someone." Jasper glanced at me, his brows faintly furrowed, suspicion flickering in his eyes. But when his gaze shifted to Jonathan's cold, unreadable face, he quickly softened his expression. "Don't talk nonsense," he said lightly. "Kathy has been sitting in the car the whole time. Who could she possibly be kissing?" "Well, you never know. Who knows what Kathy did after we left?" Kimberly teased. But before she could say more, Jonathan's gaze snapped to her, his voice icy and sharp. "She's been asleep in the car the whole time. She woke up 5 minutes ago. I can vouch for that." Kimberly froze, stunned. "John," but he cut her off without hesitation. "The Claytons and the Jensens aren't close. I'm not familiar with Miss Jensen either." Her face flushed bright red, her eyes welling up with tears as she turned to Jasper, looking pitiful. Jasper glanced at Jonathan's cold, stern expression, but in the end, he didn't dare say a word. Kimberly looked utterly humiliated, but there was nothing she could do. After all, the Jensens still needed to cling to the Suttons. The Suttons had to act humble in front of the Claytons. So Kimberly could only swallow her frustration. But she was still upset, shooting me a fierce glare through the rearview mirror. I knew right away that she had added that to my tab. For the remaining 30 miles, Kimberly stayed unusually quiet. She didn't say a word until we arrived at the hot spring resort. There, she immediately clung to Jasper, pestering him to share a suite. "Jazzy, I've never slept alone at night. I'm really scared. It's a suite anyway, with separate bedrooms. Kathy won't mind, right?" She tugged on his arm, swaying it back and forth. Jasper looked at me helplessly, as if asking for my permission. But I just smiled lightly. "Then I'll swap rooms with her. I like the one with the garden." Jasper seemed a bit guilty, lowering his voice to comfort me. "Catherine, it's Kimmy's birthday this time. Let's just humor her. I'll take you on vacation, just the two of us, next time as compensation. How about that?" I nodded graciously. "Sure." Without waiting for my response, he hurried to carry my luggage to the room himself. When he left, he looked noticeably more at ease, as if he'd done his part. There was a party that evening, So I went back to my room, took a shower, and changed into a new dress. I took my time doing my makeup, something with a pure yet seductive vibe. I arrived a little late, so everyone was already there. In the bustling room, I spotted Jonathan sitting alone by the window. He'd changed into a white shirt, still wearing his glasses, looking as cool and restrained as ever. When he saw me enter, he gave me a faint glance, nothing more. But just as I looked away, I caught a subtle movement out of the corner of my eye. He casually lifted his hand and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt, his slender fingers briefly brushing over his Adam's apple. I lowered my gaze, gently biting my lip, my mind wandering. What would happen if I bit him right there? Would he lose control? Wow. Kathy, why are you dressed so pretty tonight? Kimberly ran over, grabbing my arm and shaking it playfully. Then she pouted, clearly displeased. But seriously, who dresses like this? You're stealing my spotlight as the birthday girl. Then she turned to Jasper, whining, Jazzy, look at this. Kathy's bullying me again. I glanced at her. Of course, she'd dressed up meticulously tonight. To be fair, she did look like a little princess. But as the saying went sometimes, cute didn't stand a chance against sexy. I'd usually choose a casual, minimalist style. But tonight, on a whim, I went all in with the pure yet sultry look, a deep burgundy spaghetti strap mini dress paired with matching strappy high heels. The color complemented my skin perfectly, and the crisscross straps wrapped around my calves made my legs look even longer and slimmer. When Jasper looked at me, his eyes clearly lit up with surprise and admiration. The others joined in, teasing him. Wow, Catherine really turned up the heat tonight. Jasper, you're a lucky guy. Look at him. His eyes are practically glued to her. Jasper looked smug as he walked over to me. But then he cleared his throat, putting on a serious face. Catherine, it's Kimmy's birthday today. If you want to dress like this, save it for when we're on a date. You're just upsetting her for no reason. I stared at Jasper, and at that moment, I could feel the faint affection and attachment I once had for him was slipping away rapidly. But strangely, it didn't hurt. I didn't feel any sadness or reluctance. Catherine, did you hear me? Jasper furrowed his brows, his gaze fixed on me, unwavering. So, what do you want me to do? Go back and change your clothes, he said, gently gripping my arm and pulling me into a secluded corner before lowering his voice. Catherine, you're 2 years older than Kimmy. Just let her have this one. I pushed his hand away and laughed. And what if I don't want to? Jasper was stunned for a second, then let out a low chuckle. What makes you think you have the right to say no to me? But I just don't want to. If you don't want to, then let's break up. His handsome yet arrogant face gradually filled with anger and disdain, as if he was certain I'd be afraid of breaking up, as if I wouldn't dare to. Fine, let's break up. I shoved his hand away. As you wish. Jasper suddenly laughed a cold, mocking laugh. All right then, guess I was being too nice. Now get the hell out of here. I didn't say a word. I simply turned around, opened the door, and walked out with big strides. After leaving, I didn't go back to my room. Instead, I grabbed a bottle of red wine and headed to the little garden. The cool evening breeze brushed against me as I sipped my second glass of wine. Feeling a bit tipsy, I sent Jonathan a message. Dr. Clayton. He replied almost instantly as if he'd been waiting for my message. What's wrong? My bosom still hurts. He didn't reply right away. A few minutes later, he called. My bosom still hurts. He didn't reply right away. A few minutes later, he called. I leaned back in the chair and listened to the cool mountain breeze. The nearby crabapple blossoms were still awake under the moonlight. I felt drunk, my vision blurred, and my senses dulled. But Jonathan's voice in my ear was clear as day. Catherine, where are you right now? You call me Katie when you're kissing me, but after you're done, it's back to Catherine. Dr. Clayton, you really are cold and heartless. There was a brief pause on the other end, then a faint, low chuckle. When he spoke again, his voice was tinged with something softer, something tender. Katie, where are you? In the garden. Dr. Clayton, are you coming over? Jonathan took me to his room. He wasn't staying in the same building as us, but in a secluded villa nestled deep within a bamboo grove. On the way there, I asked curiously, "Aren't you afraid someone might see us?" Jonathan held my hand, gesturing for me to watch my step on the stone path. When I looked down, I saw our shadows overlapping, stretched long and thin under the moonlight. "This place belongs to the Claytons. You don't need to be afraid or worried." Who said I was afraid or worried? Jonathan turned his head slightly to glance at me. I stopped walking and looked at him directly. "I broke up with Jasper." "So, what's there to be afraid of?" "When did you break up?" "Half an hour ago. You were there." Jonathan didn't say anything. The moon was bright, the stars sparse, and the shadows of the bamboo flickered across his handsome face. Standing under the moonlight, he looked just like one of those slender, elegant bamboo stalks. "Catherine." He tightened his grip on my hand, pulling me into his arms. "You'd better be done with him for good, and don't even think about going back." The villa had a large courtyard, but the moment we stepped through the gate, he pressed me against the door. His hands cupped my face, and he kissed me deeply, fiercely, urgently. In the brief pause when we came up for air, his face rested against my neck, his breath hot and ragged. I wrapped my arms around his neck, my fingers threading through his thick hair. "Dr. Clayton, have you kissed other women before?" He turned his face slightly, kissing my lips again. His breath was unsteady, his voice low and deep. "No." "So, you've never slept with a woman either?" Jonathan cupped my face, his thumb gently brushing the moisture from the corner of my lips. "That's right." He was tall. Even with my high heels on, I only reached his chin. My hands, which had been tangled in his hair, slowly slid down to the open collar of his shirt. When my soft fingers grazed his Adam's apple, his reaction was startling. It bobbed sharply, and the warmth of his palms against my cheeks suddenly felt searing. The swirl of emotions inside me, bitterness, confusion, desire, all screamed for an outlet. I craved release. I craved indulgence. I closed my eyes and pressed a soft kiss against his alluring Adam's apple. His slender fingers, which had been cradling my face, slid into my thick black hair, holding me tighter. Our lips were forced even closer together. His breath grew ragged, but he restrained himself, refusing to let out even the faintest gasp. "Dr. Clayton," I whispered softly, "aren't you forgetting something?" His elegant fingers traced the outline of my face, his lips brushing the corner of my eye. "What am I forgetting?" "I'm in pain. Shouldn't you check me, just to be sure?" I reached for his left hand, guiding it down until his fingertips rested over my chest. The moonlight was silver and cool, but against my bare skin, it felt as delicate as frost. I tilted my face upward, clearly seeing the dark, intense desire clouding his eyes. Then, still pressing his hand against me, I tightened my grip slightly. "Dr. Clayton, can we start now?" Jonathan's palm was burning hot. It felt like his heat might scorch right through my skin. His Adam's apple bobbed again violently. Beneath the overwhelming desire in his gaze, there was something even more terrifying, an intense, consuming possessiveness that seemed ready to devour me whole. We were pressed so close together that I could feel every change, every reaction in his body. The moonlight was silver and cool, but against my bare skin, it felt as delicate as frost. I tilted my face upward, clearly seeing the dark, intense desire clouding his eyes. Then, still pressing his hand against me, I tightened my grip slightly. "Dr. Clayton, can we start now?" Jonathan's palm was burning hot. It felt like his heat might scorch right through my skin. His Adam's apple bobbed again violently. Beneath the overwhelming desire in his gaze, there was something even more terrifying, an intense, consuming possessiveness that seemed ready to devour me whole. We were pressed so close together that I could feel every change, every reaction in his body. He was like a volcano, his heat dizzying me, melting away every shred of rational thought. But I had underestimated Jonathan's self-control. Even at this moment, he managed to force his hand away from me. I stood there, stunned, my heart sinking, feeling lost and vulnerable. "Not here," he murmured. He pulled me into his arms again and pressed a tender kiss to my forehead. "Let's shower first. Otherwise, it won't be clean. It wouldn't be good for you." His words sent a strange tremor through my heart. Even the cool mountain breeze outside suddenly felt soft and gentle. At that moment, no one could resist falling deeper. When we entered his villa, I was about to bend down to take off my shoes, but Jonathan had already knelt, holding out a new pair of slippers. A surgeon's hands were known for their precision and dexterity. The delicate straps of my heels crisscrossed around my calves were designed to be easily undone with a gentle pull. But he fumbled, awkwardly tugging twice before succeeding. His fingers wrapped around my ankle as he carefully slipped my foot into the soft slippers. Looking down, I saw his broad shoulders outlined perfectly by his white dress shirt. The hem of the shirt is tucked neatly into his slacks, highlighting his lean, narrow waist. Maybe it was the alcohol, but a restless heat bloomed inside me, a thirst I couldn't ignore. As he stood up, I suddenly rose onto my toes, hooked my arms around his neck, and kissed him first. We kissed all the way from the entrance to the bathroom. By the time the water from the shower began to fall, the hem of his shirt was already a mess under my fingers, and the straps of my dress had long since slipped off my shoulders. Jonathan pinned me against the wall, his kisses fierce, heavy, and urgent. Steam soon filled the bathroom, engulfing us completely. It felt like he wanted to devour me whole. "Catherine," he whispered hoarsely against my skin. But just when I thought we'd crossed the point of no return, he suddenly gripped my wrists, forcefully pulling me away. Jonathan brushed aside the damp, messy strands of hair by my temples while interlacing his fingers tightly with mine. His breath was hot and ragged, his voice low and husky. "Let's go back to the room." "Not here, it'll be uncomfortable for you." He looked lean and slender with his clothes on, but I never expected his body to be this perfect underneath. He even had 8 pack abs. I couldn't fathom how, with such an intense workload, he still found the energy and time to work out. But no matter the reason, it was a delightful bonus for me. I couldn't get enough of it, tracing my fingers over them again and again. "Do you like it?" Even in the middle of our passion, Jonathan didn't forget to ask. What a question. Who wouldn't like a man with abs? "Of course I do," I replied, pressing my hand against them more firmly. "Then they're yours from now on." I didn't respond. His mind seemed to drift along with mine, both of us floating somewhere between reality and desire. Back in school, Jonathan had been the unattainable, the charismatic senior every girl admired from afar. I didn't even dare to dream of him. Sure, there were fleeting, secret crushes tucked deep inside my heart, but they stayed hidden, unspoken. But now he was right here in my hands. Yet, somehow, I still couldn't believe I was lucky enough to truly have him. Who could claim something as theirs just because they love it? Not to mention there was still Jasper. All the messy, unresolved history between us. And the fact that he and Jonathan were cousins. But I didn't have time to think about any of that. Because Jonathan's lips found mine again, his fingers laced tightly with mine, pinning me down against the bed. I didn't dare imagine what I looked like right then. Probably flushed with desire, my face betraying every chaotic thought swirling in my heart. The master bedroom was dim, lit only by a standing lamp in the corner. The curtains were half drawn, allowing soft moonlight to spill in, casting delicate shadows. I lay in that pale glow, almost blending into the light itself. Outside the window, the tree's blossoms had folded into buds for the night, and dots of crimson flickered amidst the black and white scenery. From inside the room, the view was just as breathtaking. But if you looked closely, you could see faint marks along my waist, chaotic impressions left by his strong surgeon's hands. His grip really was astonishingly firm. I thought back to how he'd held me, his hands fitting perfectly around my waist. The memory sent another rush of heat to my face, my heart racing all over again. This had been our first time. Honestly, it ended a bit hastily. He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to the damp hair by my temple. "Do you want some water?" I hummed softly, too drained to form words, my face buried in the pillow. He brought me a glass of water, but I still didn't want to move, lazily signaling for him to feed me instead. So, he cradled me in his arms, holding me close as he helped me drink the entire glass. More. Jonathan set the glass down, chuckling softly under his breath.
Sure.
You can have all of me. By the time I realized what he meant, he was already back on top of me. Where was that clean-cut, disciplined image now? Gone without a trace. The second round lasted much longer. And it was obvious. With someone as intelligent as Jonathan, it didn't take long for him to master anything. He quickly learned every rhythm, every weak spot, and every sensitive place on my body. Before long, I was completely at his mercy, tears welling at the corners of my eyes, slipping into my hair. He coaxed me, teased me, making me call him Johnny, over and over. By the end, it felt like time had melted away, leaving nothing but us. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight was already pouring through the windows. Jonathan wasn't in the room. My throat was dry, and as I tried to sit up to reach for some water, a sharp ache shot through me. My whole body felt sore, like I'd been run over. It took a while before I could finally get out of bed. On the nightstand, underneath the empty glass, there was a note.
It was his handwriting.
Sorry, Katie. There's been a serious accident. The hospital is short-staffed, so I had to leave early. I'll contact you after I'm done, okay? I stared at the note, dazed for a moment. The first thought that popped into my head was, maybe this was just the usual line men give. Perhaps Jonathan had treated last night as nothing more than a fleeting fling. But I still couldn't resist pulling out my phone to check. The top headline was about the chain reaction car accident. The injured were almost immediately taken to the hospital near Jonathan's work. So, Jonathan didn't lie to me. But when he said he'd contact me later, what would he even say? And what was I supposed to do? My mind felt like a tangled mess. I hadn't even figured out my next step. But I didn't want to stay here any longer. So I got out of bed quickly, freshened up briefly, and prepared to head back to my room to pack and leave. As soon as I stepped out of the small courtyard and reached the lakeside, I ran right into Jasper and Kimberly with their group. I didn't want to deal with them, so I turned to take another path. But Kimberly called out to me, "Kathy, why are you wearing a man's shirt?" When I left the room, because of the kiss marks all over my neck and chest, I'd randomly grabbed a new men's shirt from the wardrobe. It was probably one kept there for Jonathan when he stayed over occasionally. As soon as Kimberly said that, I instinctively clutched at the collar. Jasper's expression had already changed. "Catherine, where did you get that shirt?" I tried hard to stay calm. The first thought in my heart was I was the one who seduced Jonathan. No matter what, I couldn't drag him into any drama. "I was feeling a bit cold earlier and just borrowed it from a staff member," I replied. But Jasper stepped right up to me. "You're still wearing the same dress from last night. Catherine, don't tell me you didn't come back to your room all night?" He reached out, trying to pull at the shirt I was wearing. But I pushed his hand away and stepped back. "If I remember correctly, we broke up last night. So, whatever I do has nothing to do with you, right?" Kimberly immediately gasped in surprise. "Kathy, you broke up with Jazzy?" I stared at her blankly. "Yes, we broke up. Ms. Jensen, you must be thrilled." "What's that supposed to mean?" Kimberly snapped, clearly annoyed. "Why would I be happy about your breakup? Are you trying to make me out to be the bad guy?" "Jazzy, are you going to say something or not? Don't let her go around spreading rumors, calling me a homewrecker." Jasper patted her hand reassuringly and pulled her behind him. Then he looked at me, his eyes full of displeasure. "Seriously? All this over some stupid misunderstanding? How many times do I have to tell you? Kimberly and I are like siblings. There's nothing between us." Kimberly added sarcastically, "Kathy, don't be so petty. Men and women can have purely platonic friendships, you know." "Catherine, if you keep making a fuss over this, you're the one who'll lose out in the end." "I'm not making a fuss. I just don't want to be with you anymore. And as we clearly agreed last night, we're done." I didn't want to waste any more words on Jasper. My body was still aching. Jonathan, that bastard. At least he had some decency and didn't drag me into a third round. Otherwise, I'd probably still be stuck in bed right now. Fine, then just tell me straight. Where did you go last night if you didn't come back to your room? I smiled slightly, raising an eyebrow. Ran into a friend. We had some drinks and chatted. Is that a problem? Just drinking and chatting? Does it have anything to do with you? I casually flipped my hair. Jasper's pupils suddenly contracted as he pointed at the mark on my neck, his voice rising sharply. What's that on your neck? I glanced at him and casually touched it. Probably a mosquito bite. Catherine, who the hell are you trying to fool? Then what do you think it is? And even if it's exactly what you think, so what? Men and women can have pure friendships, you know. Even if we kissed a little, it just means we're really close friends. After saying that, I looked at Kimberly. Don't you agree, Ms. Jensen? Kimberly's face flushed bright red, but she couldn't come up with a response. She tugged at Jasper, looking like she was about to cry. But Jasper completely ignored her, his eyes locked on the mark on my neck. Catherine, which random guy did you go drinking with last night? You'd better tell me clearly. If you're so curious, why don't you find out yourself? I raised an eyebrow and smiled. Now, could you move? I'd like to get some rest. Maybe it was my calm attitude that got under Jasper's proud, arrogant skin. His face darkened to an extreme. Catherine, don't you regret this? And don't let me find out who you've been fooling around with. I gave a casual hum and replied, whoever regrets this is a bastard. Back in my room, I took another shower and changed into some loose, casual clothes. I packed my things and left the hot spring resort directly. On the way back, my dad called me several times. I didn't pick up. Soon after, my brother sent me a message. Did you have a fight with Jasper? Go apologize right now. Stop being so dramatic. I'm negotiating a deal with the Suttons. Don't mess this up for me. I felt an overwhelming pressure in my chest. I was just dating him, not sold to him. We've broken up now, and there's no chance of getting back together. Catherine, are you getting too full of yourself? Let me tell you, if you can't hold on to a golden prospect like him, I'll have Mom and Dad kick you out of the family. After graduating from college, I'd been completely independent. My parents had long made it clear that everything in the Robinsons had nothing to do with me. It all belonged to my two elder brothers. Out of all the houses the family owned, they'd only given me a small 60-square-foot apartment. The rest were under my brothers. When the frustration got too much, I couldn't sleep at night. My head felt like it was going to explode. I had to get up and drink some alcohol. Maybe it was the alcohol, maybe it was the stress, but the pain in my breast from the fibrocystic condition started acting up again. Even after taking medication, the pain only got worse. I had no choice but to drag myself to the hospital for a checkup. So, the Robinson family's business and future. What did any of it have to do with me? Chuckled and replied, that's exactly what I want. After returning home, I locked myself in for 3 days. No one could face a family like that without feeling any sadness or bitterness. I registered under a different specialist trying to avoid Jonathan. After all, my whole life was a mess right now. I had no idea how to face him. While waiting in the corridor, a nurse suddenly came over and called my name. I followed her, only to realize she was leading me to Jonathan's office. I instinctively turned around to leave, but Jonathan's voice stopped me. He must have been working nonstop for 2 or 3 days. The bloodshot eyes, the exhaustion written all over his face. Sit down for a bit. I'll wash my hands. He took off his white coat and carefully washed and sanitized his hands. I watched the water run over his long, strong fingers. I gradually drifted off in thought again. My mind was filled with images of that night, how these hands had roamed over me, explored places no one had ever ventured before, and brought me such overwhelming pleasure, making me feel both alive and on the verge of collapse. I felt like I was completely ruined. My head was filled with nothing but indecent thoughts. Is the area with the fibrocystic growth hurting again? Jonathan finished washing his hands, disinfected them, and dried them before walking over to me. Sorry, Katie. I've been really busy these past few days and couldn't reach out to you right away. I stared at him in a daze. It had only been 3 days, but he seemed thinner already. A faint stubble had grown on his chin. He clearly hadn't had time to shave. I couldn't help but raise my hand and gently touch it. Jonathan, you didn't even shave. You look ugly. He grabbed my hand, rubbing his chin against my palm with a soft chuckle. I'll go shave now. But I tugged at him, not letting him get up. I was just joking. You still look handsome like this. Very masculine.
If
I were to use words from a book, I'd say you're radiating pure male hormones. Then should I keep it? I scrunched my nose. On second thought, better not. It'll hurt when you kiss me. His smile deepened. Want to test that theory? This is your office. It's fine. I've got half the day off today. No one will come in and disturb us. I was just about to call you, actually. Then I happened to see that you'd come to the hospital. This is your office. It's fine. I've got half the day off today. No one will come in and disturb us. I was just about to call you, actually. Then I happened to see that you'd come to the hospital. Jonathan held my hand, his expression gradually turning serious. Katie, I'm really sorry. I didn't know it was your first time that day. We were sitting very close. The window was right beside us. Outside, I could see camphor trees, and not far beyond was the garden. A faint floral scent drifted in with the breeze, lingering at the tip of my nose. Light and shadows played across his sharp, handsome features. I could even see each of his eyelashes clearly. There were faint dark circles under his eyes from working overtime, and at the corner of his eye, a tiny brown
mole.
He had once been the unreachable dream of my teenage years. My nose began to sting with emotion. There were so many things I couldn't bring myself to say. Maybe people always felt an uncontrollable sense of inferiority in front of the ones they looked up to. But deep down, I couldn't bear to push him away. I'd always known this about myself. I was selfish and vain. Just like how I didn't want my greedy, shameless family leeching off me or anyone close to me, I wished I could cut ties with them completely. And just like how, at this very moment, I wished the whole world knew that Jonathan was mine. But I couldn't say it out loud. Not yet. Jonathan was such a bright, upright man. I didn't want to drag him into the ugliness of my life. As these thoughts raced through my mind, I smiled at him and said lightly, "What's this? Are you trying to take responsibility for me?" Jonathan didn't smile. He answered seriously, "I want to." "Don't be so serious, Dr. Clayton. You're scaring me." I slowly pulled my hand from his. We're both adults. We can take responsibility for our own actions. There's no need for all that, Dr. Clayton. Katie, Dr. Clayton, I'm in quite a bit of pain right now. Could we focus on the treatment? Jonathan looked at me, silent for just a few seconds, before immediately switching to professional mode. He carefully examined me again and adjusted some of my medication. Go for some physical therapy. The heat compress and massage will make you feel much better. I nodded and stood up to leave, but Jonathan grabbed a clean white coat. I'll take you there. During the heat compress and massage, I couldn't help but close my eyes in embarrassment. Can you have a nurse do it? Jonathan put on his gloves. Are you questioning my professionalism? I choked on my words and stayed silent. But the moment his fingers touched me, my face still turned red. Without a doubt, Jonathan's technique was top-notch. I soon felt so comfortable that I was drifting off to sleep. Toward the end, I think I heard him call my name. But I was too drowsy to open my eyes. He said something to me, or maybe nothing at all before turning and leaving. I fell into a deep sleep, and when I woke up, I didn't go looking for Jonathan. I just asked a nurse to pass along a message for me and quietly left. Wearing a mask, I kept my head down as I walked out of the elevator toward the hospital entrance. But as soon as I reached the ground floor, someone grabbed my arm. Then came a slap, hard enough to leave me stunned. When I snapped back to my senses, I saw the cold, furious faces of my two brothers. Catherine, you're coming with us to see Mr. Sutton right now. I'm not going. You don't have a choice. Mr. Sutton said as long as you lower your head, he'll consider getting engaged to you. You know very well that if we want our business to improve, Mr. Sutton is the biggest shortcut. My second brother, Kevin Robinson, was hot-tempered as always. He raised his hand to hit me again, but my eldest brother, Keith Robinson, stopped him. He looked at me gently, his voice calm. Catherine, the family is really in trouble right now. If this deal falls through, the Robinsons are finished. You're part of this family, too. We have always treated you well. Can't you help us just this once? Then, have you ever thought about how people will look down on me, how they'll trample on my dignity in the future? I snapped back. You're young, beautiful, and well-educated. Mr. Sutton genuinely likes you. He won't treat you badly. Then, have you ever thought about how people will look down on me, how they'll trample on my dignity in the future? I snapped back. You're young, beautiful, and well-educated. Mr. Sutton genuinely likes you. He won't treat you badly. Catherine, don't be naive. Do you know how many people would kill for the chance to marry into the Suttons? I told you I won't get back together with Jasper. I took 2 steps back, sneering at my 2 brothers. If you're so desperate for this great marriage deal, why don't you sell your own daughters? Catherine, if you're going to be this heartless toward your own family, then return everything our parents gave you and cut ties with the Robinsons completely. Fine, I will. Maybe because they saw I was completely unmoved, Keith frowned. Catherine, you're young and naive, easy to make foolish decisions. When you get married one day, you'll understand the importance of your family. Don't wait until it's too late to regret it. I couldn't help but laugh. During my teenage years, I'd felt pain, confusion, frustration. I even tried to end my own life. I couldn't understand why our parents showered my 2 brothers with love, but treated me with nothing but cold indifference. I sank into deep self-doubt for a long time. But later, I accidentally found out that I was just an abandoned baby the Robinsons had adopted, and they'd only taken me in as a tool for securing a profitable marriage alliance. How much genuine affection could there ever be for a tool? Once I figured that out, I slowly learned to save myself, climbing out of the dark dead end in my heart. I returned the apartment and the car to the Robinsons. Even the $200,000 I'd saved over the past 2 years after graduation through work and part-time jobs, I gave it all to my parents. I would do my best to repay the kindness of being raised. But my marriage? I wanted to hold that in my own hands. When I left the Robinsons, everyone's faces were dark with anger. That severance agreement, stamped with all their names and fingerprints, said it all. The agreement wasn't handed to me. It was thrown in my face. I moved into a new rental apartment, trying hard to pull myself together. During this time, Jonathan contacted me several times. I only gave brief replies when he asked about my health. He also tried to meet up with me. But after thinking it over for a long time, I refused. I was afraid that the moment I saw him, I'd lose control. I'd want to hug him, kiss him, sleep with him. I'd want to make him completely mine. But at the same time, I stayed painfully clear-headed, afraid that this beautiful dream would end up being nothing more than an illusion. Jonathan didn't push me or cling to me. Sometimes, I'd scroll through his social media. He rarely posted, just updates about morning runs or night jogs. I felt like a creep, zooming in on his photos, greedily taking in every detail of him. Work gradually started becoming difficult. I had a vague feeling that maybe Jasper was pulling strings behind the scenes. But I couldn't afford to quit, so I gritted my teeth and endured it, even as my salary kept getting cut. When the pressure was so overwhelming that I felt like I was going to break, I came home late one night from working overtime and saw Jonathan standing downstairs. By then, autumn had already arrived. He was wearing a dark gray trench coat, standing beneath my apartment building, tall and striking, as if carved by the gods. A cigarette dangled between his slender fingers. It was the first time I'd ever seen him smoke. The moment he saw me, he immediately stubbed it out. I stood frozen, stunned, the cold sandwich in my hand falling to the ground. Jonathan strode toward me. Without hesitation, without giving me a chance to refuse, he pulled me into a tight embrace and kissed me. That kiss was deep and overwhelming, with the faint bitterness of nicotine seeping into my lungs, intoxicating. Within moments, I was on my tiptoes, my arms wrapped tightly around his neck, responding to him with equal fervor. Tight embrace and kissed me. That kiss was deep and overwhelming, with the faint bitterness of nicotine seeping into my lungs. Intoxicating. Within moments, I was on my tiptoes, my arms wrapped tightly around his neck, responding to him with equal fervor. I missed him so much. I missed kissing him, holding him, losing myself in him. We kissed all the way up the stairs. While I fumbled with the keys, it felt like an electric current shooting from my fingertips, spreading through my entire body. I couldn't hold back the soft moans that escaped me, which he took as an invitation, deepening the kiss. Hot, desperate, consuming. Just when things were about to spiral completely out of control, Jonathan somehow managed to rein in his desire. "I'm going to take a shower first," he said, his voice thick with restraint, his eyes darkened with longing. I loved seeing him like this, pulled down from his pedestal, drowning in desire because of me. As he turned to leave, I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind, holding him tightly. "I want to shower with you," I whispered. My rental apartment was tiny, and the bathroom was even smaller. The water pressure was weak, and I felt a little cold. So Jonathan held me close, his body radiating heat. His hands were warm, too, sliding through my wet hair, fingertips grazing my scalp, sending shivers down my spine. He leaned down to kiss me, his fingers brushing aside damp strands near my temple, gently caressing the cool skin of my earlobe. I closed my eyes, no longer wanting to suppress my feelings. "Dr. Clayton," I murmured, "don't you want to give me another checkup?" I took his hand, guiding it slowly to my chest. His desire surged, and he couldn't wait until we made it back to the bedroom. Right there, beneath the misty spray of warm water, in a space so cramped we could barely move, we tangled together again and again. Until finally, exhausted, I drifted into a deep, sweet sleep, nestled in the crook of his arm. When I woke up again, Jonathan was still in my apartment. I was a little surprised, rubbing my eyes several times. He had his sleeves rolled up, carrying food out from the kitchen. "You're awake? Want something to eat? Why didn't you leave?" Jonathan set the plate down, standing by the dining table, looking at me with my sleepy face. I was afraid that if I left, you'd ignore me for a long time again. He was wearing glasses, his hair unstyled, falling softly over his forehead. He looked like a piece of warm, polished silver. I liked how he looked with his glasses on, but I liked it even more when I could take them off myself. "Jonathan," I walked up to him, looking into his eyes. "I have nothing right now. I might even lose my job. And I'm not really the daughter of the Robinsons. I'm just an abandoned child they adopted. I'm selfish and maybe a little vain. I don't think you'd like someone like me." Jonathan seemed to sense my vulnerability, my insecurity, my helplessness. He reached out and hugged me tightly. "Catherine, I've never cared about anything, except for you. Why?" I stared at him, whispering in disbelief. "Why me? Why would you like me? Someone like me, full of contradictions, full of pride mixed with deep-seated inferiority. There's no why. I just like you." Jonathan slowly lowered his head and kissed me gently. Maybe it started long ago when they were still in school. Maybe it was when she became Jasper's girlfriend, and they met again. Even he couldn't explain it clearly. It was just that after he knew she was with Jasper, he forced himself to endure being in circles he despised, just to catch another glimpse of her. That was why, even while choking on jealousy, he'd still show up around her and Jasper again and again. Jonathan thought, no one else in this world would ever know how much he despised his own pathetic joy that day in the car when her knee touched his, and she didn't move away. But he couldn't control it. In the end, he became the kind of person he looked down on the most. Yet, he never regretted it. Not once did he regret the choices he made. The only thing he regretted was that he should have made the first move. He should have acted sooner and been more proactive, even if it meant being the shameless third party. In the end, I still lost my job. The day I left the company, I ran into Jasper downstairs. When he saw me carrying a box out, he immediately got out of his car. This time, the passenger seat was empty, no Kimberly. I kept my gaze straight ahead and continued walking, but Jasper stepped in front of me. "Catherine, stop being stubborn. I've told you before, you're a beautiful young woman. Why put yourself through all this? Let's get back together. I promise I won't see Kimberly again." I smiled slightly, looking at Jasper. People were always like this, obsessed with what they couldn't have. Now he said he won't see Kimberly anymore. But it was probably just because they'd already crossed every line, done everything they could. The excitement wore off, and the novelty faded. And that was when he remembered me. "So, what do you think?" Seeing me smile, Jasper thought I was softening. He reached out to grab my hand. I stepped back. "Jasper, the thing is, I already have a boyfriend." Jasper's face was full of disbelief. "That's impossible. When did you get a boyfriend?" My smile deepened. "Do you remember that time at the hot springs resort?" I was wearing a man's shirt. Jasper's pupils contracted instantly, and his face gradually turned ashen. "That shirt belongs to him. We were together that night, drank, talked, and slept." "Catherine," he roared through gritted teeth. "Don't be mad." I tilted my head slightly. "Didn't you and Kimberly do the same? Besides, we hadn't even broken up at that time." "That's different. I was just messing around with her. If I really liked her, there'd be no place for you." Jasper's voice was low and furious, nearly trembling with rage. "You're right, it is different. Because I'm serious. I really like him." Who the hell is this guy? Jasper was about to lose his mind. No one had ever dared to steal what was his, until
now.
I swear I'll skin him alive. He was seething, completely unhinged. "Who do you want to skin?" A deep, cold voice sounded from behind him. It was like someone had pulled the plug on Jasper. His whole body froze. After a long moment, he stiffly turned
around.
When he saw that it was Jonathan standing there, it was as if someone had yanked out his spine. He stood dumbfounded, unable to say a single word. Jonathan was wearing a black overcoat, his face calm, sharp, and distant. "Go on, say it, Jasper." "Joe." "John," Jasper stammered. Jonathan ignored him, stepping past to take the box from my hands. "Joe." "John," Jasper stammered. Jonathan ignored him, stepping past to take the box from my hands. Jonathan freed one hand to pull me close, casting a cold glance at Jasper. "If Katie says it's over, then it's over." "John, if you're so upset, don't call me anymore." Jonathan smirked slightly. After all, the Claytons and Suttons aren't really related. Jasper immediately shut his mouth. Only God knew how much effort his family had put into building ties with the Claytons. If he messed it up, his father would probably skin him alive. I followed Jonathan into his car. As we drove off, I looked back. Jasper was still standing there, dejected. I turned my gaze to Jonathan. Even just watching him focus on driving, he looked so handsome. I couldn't help but snap a photo. "Dr. Clayton, I want to post this on my social media." I just really wanted to show off, to show the world that Jonathan was my man. "Sure." "Okay, I'm posting it then." I opened my app, picked the photo I'd just taken, and typed, "The most handsome man in the world is mine now." As soon as I posted it, my phone exploded with notifications. Looking at the comments, my heart felt like it was overflowing with joy. At a red light, Jonathan reached over, holding my hand. "Happy." Super happy." He turned his head slightly, pressing a soft kiss to my cheek. "Catherine, I'm really happy too." The light turned green, so he started driving again. The road ahead was long, but my happiness with Jonathan had only just begun.